What's going on, guys? Jordan here with HD. Doing an upper body push session today with Killian Hamilton. So we're going to walk through a bit of our warm up. We're going to get into the overhead position, starting at a high incline dumbbell press, moving into machine dips, and then some isolation work, getting a bit of shoulders and arms at the end. I think the big takeaway from this workout is how to organize exercise selection based off of like dumbbells, barbells, machines, cables. How do you organize it so you can always kind of keep some in the tank? How do you prioritize certain implements over others? And then how to structure that in a workout that allows you to get the most out of each lift. All right, guys, we're gonna go through a 2-movement shoulder prep. We're about to get into some incline pressing to start. So we're gonna start with internally rotated circumduction. So we're gonna have dowel behind our back, palms facing forward. What we're gonna do is keep our ribs down, and we're gonna fully circumduct the shoulder, keeping a good grip on the dowel, allow for that full internal rotation and pronation at the wrist. Some of you might have difficulty getting into this position. Use a band if you can't. Really focus on this midpoint here, getting that scapular retraction, thoracic extension. Come around and then hold in this bottom position. If you want to get more of a stretch, try flexing your triceps at the end. And we're just going to do repetitions here. All right, second movement before we go into the press, it's going to be scap sets. We're grabbing a pronated grip just outside shoulder width apart. The idea is we're gonna allow our shoulder blades to go through full upward rotation. Right, so we're gonna kind of have our traps up by our ears, and we're gonna bring those shoulder blades together and down and just sort of explore that full upward and downward rotation of the scaps. All right, guys, so third step of every warm-up or last step of every warm-up should be integrating in the first movement of the workout. A lot of people get into the trap doing a warm-up separate to that of like the first exercise of their workout. The idea is to kind of build and prepare for your first movement and then subsequent movements therein. So we're gonna throw in high incline dumbbell press as part of our warm-up, and we're gonna work in ascending sets of weight as we go through cycles of our other 2 warm-up drills. All right, so in the interest of like organizing exercises based off of like the medium that we're going to be using, whether it be dumbbell, machine, we also need to take into consideration the range of motion that we're going to be working through. So we're going to be working more so in the overhead which is an unstable joint position, and we're going to be working with an unstable medium, a dumbbell. So this is something you're going to want to push more to the beginning of a workout where you have like a greater capacity to overcome these 2 limitations, right? Like if we were doing like a flat floor press, be much more stable joint position. With a barbell, it's going to be much more stable of an implement. So whenever we see an exercise like this, we're going to often see it earlier on in a workout. It's going to leave the most in the tank for us to overcome sort of the 2 detriments that this movement's going to put at, sort of lay at our feet. It's going to be, obviously the overhead position can be difficult to attain and maintain. And then the fact that we're using a dumbbell is going to pose some more challenges and stability than, let's say, like a barbell even, and then obviously into like cables and machines, which are more stable. So we're going to start with overhead press. We keep reps a little bit lower, working a little bit heavier into the 6 and 8, something that I'm going to progressively overload in this training cycle. So we'll see this movement again and again at heavier weights as we progress. Okay, so moving on to the second movement of the workout. We're going on a dip machine. So if you think about it, it's like a low reach, low press Still a relatively unstable position when we're in this hyper extension. So we're gonna be using the machine, get a little bit of stability from that back pad. We're gonna be organizing the two more unstable joint positions, low and high, early in the workout, so that when we get to our third movement, which is gonna be, more through this middle range of pressing, we're gonna have the structural stability. So we're not gonna have to organize as many moving parts. So hopefully we'll be able to push each exercise to the limit, or like our capacity to actually do work at each part of the workout, right? So we're organizing the exercises and the implements that we're using to make sure that we can challenge the muscle further and further into the workout. All right guys, so moving on to the third exercise of the workout. So we're gonna come into the sort of that neutral range. We're gonna go horizontal press. Sticking with the theme of increasing external stability as we go. So we're dumbbells first, then we moved on to machine. We're gonna be on another machine here. So if we're gonna be pushing like a horizontal press this late in the workout, wanna make sure we get like a decent range of motion. So finding a machine that'll allow you to get like excessive amounts of shoulder extension. So we're gonna use the Atlantis machine. We're gonna prop up with 10-pound plates to start, just to kind of save our shoulders off that initial press. We're gonna try and get a decent amount of extension. I'm gonna use the more oblique handles, so have like a slightly more like adducted arm path, but still kind of working within this middle range of that horizontal press. So this will be the last pec movement for the session, and then we'll move on to some single joint isolation stuff. All right guys, moving on to the last exercise of the workout. I've been cycling through my single joint movements at the end of those three presses. So this workout, we're just gonna be doing cable lateral raises. So I'm gonna have a bigger emphasis on creating some counterforce, integrating the trap at the top end of the movement. Really not trying to think too much about it. So just sort of, the better you can set up for the beginning of the exercise, the less you'll have to cue as the movement goes on. So I'm just gonna push against the cable stack, and I'm just gonna pull until I can't pull anymore. And that's gonna be it for the workout after that. And then again, this is a movement that we'll cycle in. So today it's gonna be lateral raises. Next session it'll be a tricep extension. Next session will be bicep curl, and we'll just kind of cycle that in. It allows you to get your arm training in a higher frequency, which can be good if you have a difficult time growing your arms. So that's what we kind of reserve this last movement for on our pressing days. So we see increased frequency of exposure to delts, biceps, triceps, as we'll add them in another one of our training days this week. Good. All right guys, so the session, pretty simple, 4 movements, 4 separate thought processes. So just to recap quickly: overhead position, unstable shoulder position, unstable medium. So dumbbell overhead press, kept the weight pretty heavy, kept the reps a bit lower, moved into the low reach, dips externally supported. As we start to fatigue, our ability to self-organize and stay stable in certain planes of movement is going to decrease. It's going to decrease our output through the muscles we're trying to train. Overhead high reach, dip, sort of reaching low, and then as we still have some gas left in the tank, we're starting to work in this like expression of function range, which is going to allow us to use our external stability with the machine that we use, the Atlantis press, plus our internal stability to sort of keeping our joints relatively stacked, and just drive as much output as we can. Last movement is, like I said, a revolving door. So this workout, it was a single joint movement in the tune or in the expression of a lateral raise with a cable, and that'll cycle through basically delts, bicep, and tricep as we see this session twice a week. So we're increasing our exposure to arm training without taking one dedicated day just to kind of like do arms. tacking one to the end like this in like a cyclical fashion allows for greater exposure, greater frequency, hopefully greater growth. So it's going to be a goal with this next training cycle is to bring the arms up a little bit, get our pressing strength up. So pretty happy with the session on the whole. So we'll do a follow-up at the end of like 6 to 8 weeks to kind of see how this session has progressed, and sort of if we're reaching some of those markers for the performance on the press or some of the objective metrics as far as like size and aesthetics and things like that. So if you have any questions, leave it below.